I'd like to thank, first of all, the deputies for raising the issues contained in this motion. And at the outset, I'd like to say that enabling children with special educational needs to receive an appropriate education is a priority for this government. Since I was appointed as Minister for Special Education and Inclusion 5 months ago, I have met with children, their parents, teachers, SNAs, special interest groups, who have provided me with invaluable insights and perspectives on the day-to-day challenges and issues, and indeed the successes in special education. Through school visits, I've seen generosity, care and compassion from entire school communities as they support, develop and nurture our young people with additional educational needs. And it makes me proud as an educator to see the progress that we have made in schools in the area of special education, particularly in recent years. Of course, there are very significant challenges. We all know and accept that. And I want to reaffirm my commitment as Minister to continuing to work to ensure that families and schools are supported. I'm pleased to have the opportunity today to set out the government's position in relation to the education-related aspects of this motion and to outline some significant measures that we've put in place to ensure that children and young people are supported to achieve their potential. Regarding the issue of the availability of school places, I understand and I regret that there are still children today who have not yet secured a school place for this school year. And some families and students feel that our system is not working for them. This is not acceptable. It is not fair that families are put in a position of feeling that they have to fight for the right to education for their child. I am absolutely committed to improving the system we have and providing the supports needed to help every child thrive and prosper within our education system. And I think it's important to state that the system works for many children. Some 250,000 children with a special educational need are accommodated in our mainstream schools with supports. Around 28,000 children are either in a special class or a special school. We have provided 408 new special classes and 4 new special schools for this school year in Meath, Kildare, Wexford and Limerick. And since this government came into office in 2020, over 1,300 new special classes have been provided, bringing the total to 3,300. And while there is spare capacity in the system, the problem is that capacity isn't always close to where children live. And throughout the summer, the Department and the National Council for Special Education, the NCSE, have worked with schools to provide further special education places. The NCSE has been provided with an additional budget of €13 million, so an increased number of special education needs organisers, or CNOs, can work to support schools and to support families. The NCSE's work to provide additional places has focused in particular on areas in North Dublin. And I can confirm that additional special classes and special school capacity has been secured and places have been offered over recent days to students, and that will continue to be offered over the coming weeks. And it is important now that the schools move quickly to offer the available places to these children. The NCSE plans for places based on children known to them, where a parent has made contact to advise that they have a child in need of a place. However, there is an information gap. The NCSE is not always made aware of children in need of a place. In some cases, this has resulted in new classes being populated by children already in a school and not by children awaiting a place who are known to the NCSE. While the sharing of information has improved, more work is needed in this area. And that is why I have asked my department to develop new guidelines to ensure that the NCSE has information on all the children seeking a special education placement, regardless of where they live. I know that pressure for places is extremely high in some areas, and that is why I have established a new task force for Dublin 15, which will work to ensure that sufficient special educational placements will be provided for the next school year and beyond. This group will examine better ways to establish the level of need in the area so that school places can be provided earlier, giving families that certainty and avoiding the unnecessary stress. Parents are telling me they're applying to 10, 20 schools. Parents shouldn't have to do that. What we want to do here is this group needs to examine a common application system that could be introduced to reduce the burden on parents, where parents would only have to apply once. These measures will help to give the NCSE a clear picture on the number of children in need of a place and thereby allowing that better planning. Once the concept is developed for Dublin 15, I expect that a national system will be developed. I met with Don Mahon, who is the new task force chairperson, in person yesterday, and I outlined my aims for this new task force. The task force will be contacting stakeholders, including parents, school principals and patrons, to secure nominees to sit on that task force, and they will begin their work very shortly. As part of these efforts to identify and meet the need for special educational places earlier, there also needs to be better communication and information sharing between the HSE and government departments, where children present with conditions that impact their education or when they're not meeting their developmental milestones. All of this information needs to be shared earlier on a child's journey so that when they come into the school and education system, it isn't a mystery in relation to children with additional needs. I welcome the work being done by my department and the Department of Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth to share information on children in the early years sector who are receiving those additional supports. This will allow for the planning for special classes or special school places to begin not months in advance, as currently applies, but years in advance. I want to assure families that no efforts are being spared to ensure that special class places are provided for this year. I chair weekly meetings with the NCSE and my department to secure places, with ongoing engagement with schools and patrons. Most schools are helpful in providing special class places. However, a very small number have to be encouraged and in some cases instructed to open special classes using legislative powers which were introduced in 2022. These powers allow the NCSE to compel a school to accept a child with special educational needs. This power was exercised twice this year. To be absolutely clear, I will not hesitate to instruct the NCSE to use these powers if a school refuses to accept a child in need of a place. We are all aware of the increased prevalence of disabilities such as autism. We know that children have different abilities and they learn in different ways, and some may require more help than others. We must and do plan for this to provide children with a place and a clear pathway through our education system. This is an investment in our children's future, with €2.7 billion a year, a quarter of the education budget allocated, giving children the supports they need as early as possible. That is vital, and ensuring timely and appropriate provision of school places is the first step. I also recognise that additional supports are required for children with special educational needs, and in that regard there are now almost 15,000 special education teachers and 22,000 SNAs working every day in mainstream schools to support children and young people and their learning. We've also progressed other types of support for children in schools, and I was particularly pleased in June to announce the establishment of the Educational Therapy Support Service, a service designed to build the capacity of teachers and school staff to provide as effectively as possible for the needs of students. This service will see therapists working in classrooms with teachers, and while the service will initially comprise of 39 therapists, it's my ambition to build this service over time to ensure that schools across the country will have access to the service. Deputies will also be aware of a more recent announcement relating to the provision of therapy services in special schools. In conjunction with the Minister for Education and the Minister for Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth, the programme will be provided by the HSE in 16 special schools supported by the NCSE. The purpose of this programme is to provide the effective delivery of in-school therapy supports to children and will supplement existing services being provided by the HSE. Therapists will work on-site in schools for the full duration of the school day and of the school year. School selection is based on where children with the greatest need for supports are based and where appropriate resources are not currently available to meet those needs. The number of children in the special school and the profile of the need of those children will determine the therapy supports to be provided. I hope to expand this pilot so children receive the supports they need. And while the provision of appropriate therapy services is extremely important, I also recognise the importance of supporting students' transitions into and from school settings. The recently launched National Strategy and Action Plan for Lifelong Guidance is about helping people make better choices about their education, their career and life choices through information, advice and guidance counselling services. And for the first time, guidance supports are being provided in special schools. In addition, my department is working to support children as they transition through our education system from early childhood to primary to post-primary and further education and training and higher education, or whatever that transition may be for that child. This is part of our commitment to the comprehensive employment strategy for people with disabilities. We've instigated a pilot programme to improve access to and opportunities for post-school options, with 40 special schools taking part this school year. A second pilot transitions programme is in collaboration between my department and in Walkinstown, the Association for People with an Intellectual Disability, which is currently engaging with and delivering its existing peer ability programme in 10 schools in Louth, Dublin, Westmeath, Cavan and Cork, supporting 170 students in their final 2 years in school. And finally, I would like to refer to the Towards Inclusion model. The overarching purpose of this programme is to provide for collaboration between mainstream and special schools in teaching, learning and assessment practices. The programme seeks to break down the barriers between specialist and mainstream provision, to allow for conversations at local level around inclusion and opportunities for collaboration. Towards inclusion, it may be viewed as a foundation block in work being undertaken to develop an inclusive education system. I think it's fair to say that despite the many challenges facing the education system, we are making progress. I recognise and I accept that our system isn't perfect. Collectively, however, I am committed to working across government to make children's lives better.
Thank you, Minister.